A last whistle howled through the factory's grimy guts, echoing off rusted steel and half-lit support columns. I peeled off my gloves, black filaments of sweat and dust crusting my palms. The floor manager, a hollow man named Gualtiero, ticked off names in his ledger, voice hoarse from a night's worth of shouting. I stood at my station, pretending to check my toolkit, heart lurking heavy behind my ribs. It was dawn, but inside, artificial light washed everything pale. The outside sun still slouched below Rome's rooftops. "Matteo!" Gualtiero called, not bothering to wave or even look at me. A word. Something skewed in his tone. I'd learned early you don't argue and you never, ever show the sweat under your skin. He led me into the corridor, where stained overalls and heavy boots hung like battered ghosts. There were no windows, just a green exit lamp shivering above the steel door. "The boss wants to see you." His eyes darted away. "Upstairs." His hesitation stung. I silently followed the narrow stairs, each step louder than the last, until the office. My shoes left twin streaks across a white tile. The boss, Signor Lazzaro, sat behind his too large desk. City buildings framed behind him, gray marble and ancient domes already gilded by pink sunrise. "Sit, Matteo." I perched on the cracked leather chair, waiting. "Orders are down. We must let some people go. You're young, you'll find something else." He shuffled papers, not meeting my eyes. "Collect your pay at the end of the week. That's all." Dignity. I bit into it, hard. "Thank you, senor." My chest felt tight, but I made sure to walk out steady. Back on the factory floor, I didn't look at anyone. Just grabbed my coat, the stained canvas pouch slung under my arm. It rattled with the cheap brushes and battered sketchbook I brought everywhere. Paint-stained jeans, my one silent rebellion. I walked home, thick boots clapping on cracked pavement, the city waking up slow around me. On Via Giulia, cold marble steps ringed each doorway, and old ladies beat their rugs, scattering dust like reluctant confetti. Sunlight hit the walls, making even the peeling paint look beautiful. Home, if one could call it that, was a cramped flat in Trastevere, with pipes that moaned, and a mother waiting at the window. She saw me and frowned. "Early, no?" she snapped, her voice not mean, but tired. "They didn't want you today?" I hung my coat, glancing at Nona's picture nailed to the kitchen wall. "No, Mama, they let me go." She clicked her tongue, clattering plates so hard one almost broke. "Of course. Maybe if you kept your mind on real work, none of this painting and sketching trash, maybe you'd be worth keeping." Her words cut, as usual. My little brother Alessandro, still in his pajamas, snickered. "Matteo's gonna be a poor street artist, huh?" "Mama, maybe he can sell his ugly drawings at the corner." Their laughter, thin like cold water, filled the kitchen. I grabbed bread and cheese, leaving before the old voices circled tighter. The river was my retreat. Tiber, wide and brown, swirled between stone banks where the light woke pigeons and tossed gold on the surface. I sat, notebook open, pencil moving, not because I wanted to ignore my family, but because breathing felt easier out here. Lines and shapes taking me somewhere I belonged. But soon word spread. My uncle cornered me at the cafe next day. "You're wasting your life," he spat, flecks of foam on his lips. "Real men build, fix, sweat. You'll end up hungry, painting walls under bridges." The grocer down the street eyed my pates like they were a disease. My childhood friends, a bricklayer, a tailor's apprentice, a traffic cop, laughed when I tried to explain the scenes I saw at night. Portraits I dreamed of, sunlight and sky I wanted to chase with color. Too many dreams, not enough sense, Matteo. Everywhere, at the bakery window, waiting for my coffee, near the lottery kiosk, climbing up cracked steps, I heard the echoes. Foolish, ungrateful, ridiculous. My father said it once, Matteo, this country is built on marble and blood. Not on pictures. But I kept painting. The nights I worked late on Ponte Sisto painting street corners and faces glimmering in neon. Passers-by shrugged past or sometimes spat at my feet. A well-dressed businessman once shoved my easel, toppling wet paint across the stones and onto my jeans. The shock of it, my own shame at being humiliated, his careless laughter burned in me for weeks. Yet still, I painted. I painted through hunger and mocking, through winters with cracked hands and summers where sweat stung my eyes. I painted on cardboard when I couldn't afford canvas, with pigments mixed from charred sticks, wine dregs, and the cheapest chalk. Once, near the Pantheon, an art teacher paused by my sketch, lips pursed. "You know," she murmured, "your perspective's all wrong. Don't you see the way the street bends away? No wonder no one buys these." But one evening, sitting on the mossy stones outside Santa Maria in Trastevere, a French tourist stopped, head cocked. She watched me finish a portrait of an old man dozing over his espresso. "You see something beautiful here," she said quietly. "You should keep going." It was the smallest kindness, but it glimmered in my chest through the lean years. I painted murals, sometimes for cash, sometimes for meals, often for nothing but the hope that color might mean something on a tired wall. I painted whatever anyone asked, landscapes, impossible city vistas, eyes of lost children and tired mothers, and hopeful fools. Slowly, my style sharpened. Brushstrokes still rough but bold, colors luminous despite cheap pigment. I learned to listen to Rome, the way thunder rolled across limestone, the scent of dust after rain, the hush of light between alley shadows. Exhibitions out of reach. I hawked my work at markets, stretching truth and charm when the real profits were small. My landlord threatened eviction twice. I painted his wife's portrait in exchange for a month's reprieve. Then a gallery owner, Flavia Bruni, paused by my battered stand near Campo de Fiori. Mid-60s, scarf of blue silk knotted at her throat, eyes sharp as razors. "These are different," she said, lifting the canvas of the Tiber by twilight. "Raw, honest. Where did you study?" "Self-taught, signora." She snorted approval. "I have a small show, 3 weeks from now. Bring your best work. Let Rome see." I nearly dropped my brushes. Preparing for that show nearly undid me. I painted 10, 12 hours straight, eating when I remembered, sleeping on rags at the studio's corner. I poured everything into the canvases, the ache and fear and stubborn hope Rome had beaten into me. Opening night, I wore trousers too short at the ankles, jacket 1 season out of date. I stood in a corridor between bright white walls, watching strangers drift in. They stared, murmured, pointed, shaking heads or nodding quietly. A critic for La Repubblica clapped me on the back. "There's pain here and joy. A true Roman, eh?" Sales happened slow first, but then suddenly, a German couple bought Ponte Sisto at dawn. An art buyer picked up Nonna's window. By the end of the week, half the pieces had red dots. Bruni cut my half of the proceeds with a smile. "You've got spirit, kid. Don't lose it." The paintings paid for a new flat, a tiny space, but mine. Food in the fridge, rent for months. Suddenly, my name, Matteo Carmine, flashed beside reviews and on arts listings. Commissions came in. A portrait here, a mural there. Still small, but enough. Enough. Years passed. My style deepened, layers on layers. Cityscapes in rain, sunlit alleys, faces carved by laughter and grief. I showed in Florence, Milan, Paris. There were lectures, guest workshops. One of my city scenes even made the cover of an American magazine. Yet in Trestivere, my family saw the reality only dimly filtered through gossip and uncertain pride. One afternoon, as cicadas crackled in the trees, I stood outside the old apartment building. My hands shook. I buzzed the door. Mama answered, gray in her hair, lines around her eyes, but the same fierce gaze. Matteo, it's been. She frowned, unsure whether to wave me in or cross her arms. My heart twitched, a boy's ache. I'd like to show you something, I said. Suspicion flashed, but she followed. Alessandro, now 16, taller, shrugged from his bedroom. Downstairs in the square, a small crowd already gathered, murmuring, pointing at the scaffolding draped against the wall of San Bartolomeo, the side street where as a child I played football, chased pigeons, hid behind laundry. I'd worked all week before dawn, keeping it hidden beneath tarps. Today, the scaffolding was coming down. Workmen in orange vests tugged off the last cover, revealing 5 meters of painted stone color erupting across the surface. The mural, our neighborhood, knotted streets and half-open windows, washing lines and laughing kids. Sunlight breaking through into the old market's shadows. Faces, my family's, the grocer's, uncles and aunts, neighbors, all of them woven into the riot of color. There was Mama, hair escaping her bun, arm outstretched with fresh bread. Alessandro perched on the stoop, dog at his heel. My father, the only time he ever smiled, captured, immortal, part of his Rome. The city surged behind them in golds and blues, bridges leaping into the dawn sky. The crowd went